Thank you for watching BlaXit. Please subscribe to our channel BlaXit, smash that like button and share everywhere.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. As she said, Usman is equally a Gambian, like all of us seated here today, because this is not a coincidence. In one way or the other, this is something that our ancestors are going to be very proud of wherever they are today. And thank you so much, Mr. Jallo, for that wonderful delivery. It was really amazing going through this. I also read history in senior school, and that is it. I was fortunate to have a good history teacher, and this was like the biggest revision class for me. Thank you for doing that. And coming back to the topic, I am an individual who believes that Africa is the future for the world, because Africa sat on the resources that feeds the world. Whether we believe it or not, there is no continent that can strive, no continent can develop in the absence of Africa. But somehow down the line, we have been missing this. He made mention of the coming in to the Senegambia region by different tribes. Many individuals came into the Senegambia region, the Gambia in particular, based on our own ethnic groups and etc. And we established systems. Systems were established here. There was nothing like Senegal or the Gambia. What used to exist were kingdoms, like the Kabus, like the Fuladu, like the Waro, the Bao, the Kayor, and etc. This is where how ethnic groups in the Gambia used to live, and within Senegal as well. But somehow down the line, we experienced an opening up, because we're known for welcoming strangers. Whenever people come in, we open up and said, come, be part of us. But the reality was that some group of individuals came in. First we were hostile to them, but later on we welcomed them. And we gave them everything. They promised that they were explorers. Little did we know that they were exploiters. So they came with a hidden agenda that we didn't know at the time. They started to penetrate into our culture, into our history, our civilization, our trade, in dealing with the people within the region. And by the time that we realized, they've introduced a system that was to eradicate or to put us down, as Brother Age made mention. That one thing that we all see in common, that is with colonialism, is that it has one effect, and that is putting us down. And this is exactly what Marcus Garvey said back in his days, that I have traveled around Europe and America, but all that I see is that black people are people that are occupying the lowest class in the social ladder and in the economic world. And we needed to do something about it, that is to be self-uplift and self-reliance. The Gambia in particular experienced colonialism, in which we were told that the education system that we have in the Gambia doesn't fit for purpose. So we were asked not to be educated in the Gambian way or in the African way, but instead we needed something new. Our brothers here with the instrument came from part of the society in which these were the great people that we use as reference. When we want to be educated about us, we consult them. These are the people that were the most knowledgeable people around Africa. They could tell us histories of 400, 500 years ago, and that was how education, people could have this as a knowledge in them, and they work with it. They were not necessarily people that have to have books and read, but they were just born, and it was with them. And that is how the African was connected to nature. But this has been destroyed down the line, and we experienced colonialism. What happened was that our education system was overthrown, our economic was hijacked. Africa was no longer adding values to products, but we had to take everything from a Western world and in a Western way. I told few friends just a few days ago that when the international economic structures were formed, it was formed with a monopoly of Western knowledge. Africans didn't contribute to that. And that is why today, most of our dealings with the West, with Asian countries and etc., with the Middle East, we still have a similar problem. Because we are always at the losing side. And it is not that this trap cannot end. It can definitely end. But first, it has to go with the consciousness of the African mind. That is why it is very good that we remind ourselves about our origin today, about our history, about our civilization, and the role that our people have played down the line in making sure that certain part of Africa, certain part of our history and civilization is preserved to date. Recently, I've been appointed as the ambassador of the Pan-African Heritage Wall, which is sponsoring a museum in Ghana, which is the biggest museum in Africa so far, and the purpose of which is to go back and revisit the hijack history. We do not lost it. It is just hijacked. And that is why we need to do more digging. Timbuktu is alive. A lot is there that we need to go and check. And we can only do that by promoting mutual discourses like this today so that we can learn from each other. And another key thing that is very, very important, and everyone around the West today is afraid of what is going on, and that is the new connection that is existing between Africans and the diasporians. I'm someone who is very much focused about development and all that. And I can tell you this, in 2020, the year of COVID, with all the COVID, with all the lockdown, with all what is happening in the world, the Gambians or people in the diaspora have contributed almost half of the Gambia's GDP in 2020 alone. More than 48% of the Gambia's GDP is money sent to the Gambia by people from the diaspora. So this tells the connectivity that exists, and I'm sure if this is better structured, Gambia will not need the IMF anymore. The Gambia will not need the World Bank anymore. And these are institutions built to keep us poor and to help Western countries to develop. Because when the IMF and the World Bank were formed, immediately after the Second World War, it has a purpose. And the purpose was to help Europe recover from the destruction that occurred in the Second World War. This was the objective. How were they to do this? With the US Marshall Plan introduced, but where do they get the resources? Africa. With France continue its colonial structure, from colonialism to neo-imperialism and etc. The British did the same thing. Belgium did the same thing. The Portuguese did the same thing. Then the US used its influence in the global politics and etc., making Africans to get into structures that destroys the African economy and not giving us the opportunity to think. And there is this book that I read, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, which is, a good book that every African need to read. And the writer did not survive the publication of it because he was assassinated just a few years after the book was published. That tells you that they are aware of what Africa is capable of doing, but they just don't want us to think through that particular line. So we are here today as ambassadors. We are here today because in one way or the other, something have designed for us to be here today. And that is why it is very, very key that we recognize the opportunities, the potentialities in us, and how we can build that relation in terms of economy, in the social, in the political aspect of our society, in making sure that Africa get what it deserves. Many times, people encounter a lot of difficulties in the Western world. And exactly, these are similar problems that we encounter here in Africa. But one thing in common is, it is all instilled by one group of individuals. And their objective is to make sure that Africa doesn't move on. But if we realize this as a people, then we can definitely be the change. And I always call on this generation that they must be the sacrifice. Every struggle demands a sacrifice. And that is us. It doesn't mean that we have to put our lives, we have to die for Africa to be saved. No, we have to be smart enough to live for Africa.
That's right.
Because that is our objective. That is what we need to do in making sure that Africa is where it is supposed to be. And they're not going to relax. We've seen with all these COVID things, with all these vaccines and others. I told people all the time, when the world decided to no more listen to Bill Gates about the internet, but to listen to him for health advices, is when everything turns down, because that is not his area.
Exactly.
But we have to understand that we have things as culture, we have things as civilization, we have a history that we need to preserve. And we have a future where we need to head to. And to do that, we can only achieve it through collaboration, recognizing each other as brothers and sisters. Here today, there is no different. If anyone comes here, all they can see is Africans. And that is what is important. There's no more like a diasporian African, no more like a Gambian African. We are Africans.
That's right.
And that is what we need to preserve. Because that is where we have the strength. That is where we have the power. And it is very, very important for us to recognize what we do, but at the same time supporting each other. It is very, very key. So just before I conclude, I just want to say this thing, that in order for us to move, we have to unite. And to unite, it doesn't mean that, people have to leave their own identity, people have to leave their own history, people have to leave their own past. No. Come together. Let us have a dialogue in which we promote content and a context. What do you put in, and how we can have a dialogue among ourselves in shaping something for Africa and shaping something for the future. On that note, I thank you all, and I'll equally be waiting for the question and answer sessions.
Thank you.
One nation, one Africa. Thank you, BlaXit family. Please keep watching, and remember, follow your dreams.
Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today.